Hello, everyone. Welcome to another week where I'm going to tell you how excited I am. But today we are kicking off our next series of Zooms. We're going to be focusing on stress. So the poll that I put up in the Facebook page was kind of like a trick question because all of the things that I included as options on that list have a lot to do. We are done making, I was making matzo ball soup before this. So, but all of the things that I included in the poll that I asked on the CCA page of what we want the next series to be on, I knew what the winner was going to be because they're all part of stress to some degree. So for the next 4 weeks, we're going to be going over the CALM method, CALM. We all know how I love an acronym. I'm actually reformatting a lot of stuff within CCA. Now, all of the content, the baby steps, the lessons, everything will be the same. But there's just an easier way to kind of organize everything. And as we're moving towards having an automated option for the program, it's just going to be a lot easier. So all of that stuff I babbled will make a lot more sense when I fully roll it out. But the CALM method is what we're going to call the part of CCA where we address the adrenals. Now, the adrenals in this capacity has a lot to do just with straight up stress. So if you remember the baby step series, we had a week of the physical adrenal management tools, and then we had emotional adrenal management. Today, communication is going to be our focus as part of the emotional side of that management. So let's get into it. Now, I want to know what you guys, coming into this, you saw the topic, it's communication or avoidance at work or at home. And I want to know what you guys interpreted that to mean. Or what are you hoping that means? What did you come on here today hoping to just learn that's going to relate to you? And if not, maybe, as I talk, maybe something will stick out. But when you see the topic as being communication, what is that? What are you guys thinking about that before I get started, if you had to guess? And those of you at home, sip with me. You notice I drink constantly throughout these. So confidence, speaking your mind, not being so consumed with upsetting people. That's a good one. What else? What else do you guys think? When I say communication, after a weekend of my senior neighbor calling me 100 times for things I can't fix. Oh God, that neighbor. I'm not sure what the topic is, but I'm here for it. Addie, boundaries. Yes, love it. Christy, I think I have also learned it's not always about me and others need to have a moment. Beth, how to effectively communicate my needs so I don't get stressed. How to not get so angry at people when I'm stressed. Yeah, all of this. So we're going to start out with one topic for communication, but before we get into it, I want to tell you guys, a lot of you are going to pick this topic and put it into place as it relates to your relationships, coworkers, friends, partners, whatever. I want you to know that you could be the most compatible pair in the world, the most compatible staff in the world, and you still will not think of things the same way, and you still will not say things with the same intention as the other person, and it is just a matter of brains, lived experience, genetics, a bunch of different things that have absolutely nothing to do with compatibility, but have everything to do with things not naturally being clairvoyant. So I want you to keep that in mind going into it, that I don't want you to hear anything I talk about today and be like, oh, damn, I'm doomed. I got to quit, or damn, I got to go get a divorce. As long as you can acknowledge it and then we work through the communication of it, I'm like pointing to my notes like you can see, then we're good. But you have to first acknowledge that brains are all different. Communication styles are all different. We can't assume the intention of somebody else, but we shouldn't have to always assume that they mean well either. Okay, so no one could read your mind, and you're not bad for having needs. You can either be civil, and this by the way, if you're one of like the 4 clients on here today, like that have talked to me about this and heard this same line over the last few days, I'm not singling anyone out. This has been a very common topic, but you can either be civil and logical now or mean, withdrawn, or disappointed later. And people are perceptive. Just because you say, let's just use work, just because you say yes at work for something doesn't mean that that person can't see that you have a mope all over your face. You're just like, that doesn't mean that someone can't spot the steam coming out of your ears a mile away. So really, no one can read your mind, and you're either going to be forced to express yourself in a way that is raw emotion and stress hormone later, or you can call the shots and express it how you want to while being in control. But it's going to come out either way. Thoughts as you guys hear that? You can either be civil and logical now, or mean, withdrawn, or disappointed later. Does that connect or relate with anybody? Me, yes, me. Yeah. I mean, I like when things connect with you. I hate that you're dealing with this, but I like when things are connecting, because it's a few things do this. A few things make us fall into this mind reader trap. So stewing, if it's something you're going to stew in, it's something that needs to be addressed. And it doesn't need to be addressed in a way that is mean, that is aggressive, that is exasperated, or at your wit's end. You don't have to put yourself in a position of looking quote unquote weaker, right? You just have to be able to know that either I'm going to stew in this and I'm going to be a less positive version of myself all day until I pop, and probably at somebody I wouldn't even intend to. Or if this is something that's going to sit in the middle of my chest and just be like a lead ball, what do I have to lose to talk about it? So, I like this. Let's see. It connects, but I deal with the people who ignore logical and ignore my reaction until it's fully all over my face. Yes, but that's when we need to assert our own boundaries of what we're willing to do for people. Just because you're a good person, just because you've lost people you care about, just because you are not where you want to be, just because whatever reason or motive there could be that makes you feel like you must do if you can do. That's when we consent to being stressed. Just because we can do it doesn't mean we must. And it doesn't make you a bad person, doesn't go against any of those things I just said. But if you know, hey, this person will not respect what I'm saying, so I could either put myself in the line of fire to be disappointed and then react later anyway, or knowing this, I can do what I got to do. And whatever you got to do, whatever that is, that'll change based on the person, the situation, the day. But having that thought process of like, well, no, I'm just not going to consent to doing anything that I'm not consenting to do. You're not put here to have to. We'll get into that though, definitely. If we don't speak up, things can torment us and cause stress, which can cause us to react terribly. Sometimes I avoid confrontation so much that I wind up not pursuing friendships because I don't know how to navigate disappointments or disagreements. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. I was never taught a healthy communication between two people in a relationship. What was modeled for me was that if people didn't live up to your expectations of them, that you just didn't talk to them anymore, or that you would find something wrong with them to kind of like blow it up. And then that was it. It took me a long time in therapy to learn how to not have to just trash the relationship just to avoid the discomfort of having to speak my mind. Because that's what I would do. I would just cut out a friendship and be like, they don't get me, but it wasn't that. It was that I wasn't willing to explain me out of fear of a million things, fear of them not understanding, the fear of it being worse, of rejection, of seeming like an emotional mess, a million things. But again, none of that is worth us in a place of control. So let's see. My problem is I ain't afraid of confrontation by any means, but I definitely stew in the guilt later if I react badly. Yeah, or badly according to me. I always wonder if I'm too harsh. That's such a good point, because a lot of times we're confusing the thing we're feeling inside with what is actually being emoted on the outside, when really, Mo, I don't know if this applies for you specifically, knowing you, love you. But for some other people, like I've definitely talked to clients who are like, I freaked out at work. But they said what they needed to say. It wasn't that they freaked out. It was that they were afraid of how the other person took it. and thought that that made them sound brash because they were afraid to disappoint, let's say. But also confrontation, it doesn't always have to be about confrontation necessarily. Sometimes it's about the place in which we explain ourselves from, rather than coming back from a place of like, you didn't do this right by me, ahead of time stating what it is that you do need, just matter of factly. I'll give you an example. So, oh no, I didn't write my example. Well, this is a good saying. Stop being so mad you're not perfect that you don't try to work on your flaws, and stop letting other people not noticing those flaws be a reason that you leave them. So sometimes we're so insecure about our own shit, talking about to these friends, is what I was saying before. We just cut them out. We just cut them out. We let it go, or we have a fight. We have like an all out fight. How many people in here are in the burn it down before it has a chance to burn me kind of place? So if you're feeling like you're guilty because you lashed out at somebody or whatever, if it's completely unwarranted, well, that's easy, you know, like, yeah, okay, this person asked me what I wanted for dinner and I screamed at them and told them that they never loved me. Okay, adrenal flare up might be, you know, just a little apology time, you know, nothing really around that. But if you are saying something that you feel very, very passionately about, unless you're calling them a jackass and telling them you hate their face, like there's no need to feel guilt necessarily. God knows every one of us on here has had to have news you don't want or be told things you don't want by other people before. So what is one situation, you guys, I want to hear specifics. What is one situation you've stewed on in the past? And I'm going to read your comments here as you're typing. So what is one situation where you have stewed on something in the past? Or we only had to be happy and make people happy. Absolutely. If we were raised to be emotional barometers, then it's so hard. If you have somebody that you can't read, you know, our mind doesn't go to like, oh, if they're hard to read, they must be thinking wonderful thoughts about me. They must really enjoy my presence. So capable. You know, if we have someone, if we were raised to feel like we always have to be 10 steps ahead to pick up on all the signs to like have the best outcome, if we were responsible for an adult's happiness, what, like if all that happened, then our mind is going to run to a million different places, and someone could just be sitting there. Someone could have no idea the look that's on their face, but it feels like they hate you, you know? So, I mean, it's understandable. I get that. So 100%, that's what I've been going through lately. I'm learning to do what I have to do and have to stop being so nervous about others and walking on imaginary eggshells. I love that. Imaginary eggshells. Absolutely. It's not our fault that we do that. It's once we pinpoint that we do that, I want you guys to think of it this way. I don't want anyone to say, I got to get better at that. I want you to leave this Zoom today saying, I have to practice that. I have to practice learning how, I'm not saying that you said this, Jacqueline, but I'm learning to do what I have to do, and I have to stop being so nervous about others and walking on imaginary eggshells. What was the phrase I said right before that? I'm sorry, I've been talking since like 10 a.m. Anyone remind me of my thought process right before I went back and read your comment for no reason? Yeah. I need to practice. Thank you, Julie. So whenever, if your mind goes to that place of like, I need to do that. I need to remember to do that. I'm so bad at that. I don't know why I can't do that. Try to stop it in its tracks and say, I have to practice, and then restate what it is you have to practice. I have to practice not thinking about imaginary eggshells. I have to practice doing what I know is not bad or mean logically. And if other people have feelings about that, that's their feelings to have, you know? So thank you for that. Oh my God, that was going to drive me absolutely insane. It was the world's simplest thing. But I'm just reading these. The biggest self-sabotager. Kathy, I stopped burning it down, but I learned 2 quotes that I repeat all the time. I never said I wasn't a work in progress, and not my chair, not my problem. Yes. I love it. I love it. All right. So let's look at this situations to stew in. My kid went with her friends and their mom to a parade. My dad decided to go without telling me, and she left with him. Nobody told me I had to tell the mom. I was upset about it, and now I feel like a dick. So what does that feeling like a dick, would you have done it differently? And how would you have done it differently? Like, if you now not being in that engaged place where it was like, what? Now looking back, if you could have done this beforehand, right? How would you have reacted differently? Sometimes looking at it this way, we realize it wasn't that bad. That was a messed up thing to do. And I said it. And I wasn't that mean. I just was obviously upset. Then you realize then you can realize from that the guilt you're feeling is just you're taking on guilt for how the other person's going to feel. But if the other person is going to feel bad as a result of their actions, and that's something to discuss, come up with a better plan for the future, and move on from. It also lets you see who you're dealing with. So if you feel like you reacted too strongly, well, what? Write it down, get it out of your head, because you're having the replay where it might feel magnified, and write it down on paper, and write down exactly the response you had that you wish was different. And maybe it flew off the handle, but chances are probably not. It's just uncomfortable, because even anger can feel vulnerable. I'm normally the life of the party, but in the last couple of years, I'm too tired. And the second my one friend, Sean, says to me, I don't like your attitude. Why are you so crabby? I literally want to rip his face off and scream, I'm not crabby. I'm effing flared and exhausted, not tired, exhausted. Okay. So, sorry, like 5 thoughts came to the stage at once. So, if you're going to an event and you know that this friend is going to be there, and they're the type that says this kind of stuff, you can say exactly what you said there in all caps, and like say exactly what you say when you're pushed to your brink and you are freaking out. Say it ahead of time in a normal tone. Just so you guys know, I'm excited to be here. I'm happy to be here. If I look like I'm crabby or run down or anything, I'm just really tired. Like, it's not any of y'all. I'm just really, I'm beat today. And if someone has something bad to say about that, can we just keep remembering what makes people assholes or not? Because I'm pretty sure if anybody told you that somebody else treated them badly because they were feeling sick, you'd be like, what an asshole. So just remember that little tidbit. Is that anybody who gets mad at people for being sick is a jerk. Like they were mal-raised. That's my new favorite term, mal-raised. So let's see. I've definitely stewed over people telling me how to do my job or how to parent. Yes. The best thing. People never know how to tell people they don't want to hear what they're saying anymore, right? Because they don't want to sound like a jerk. Well, apparently it's a very Capricorn trait to know how to do this well. I don't know. So let's say if someone's telling you how to do it, you can just hop right into the middle of what they're saying. Like, put your hand up, not to them like this, because you might get like slapped, but instead just be like, I got it. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I have a few things I'm going to try. And then change the subject. Ask them a question about themselves. That is the number one way to get someone who maybe means well, but you just like, it doesn't mean you have to sit there and listen to it if it's triggering, and just be like, well, thank you. Yeah, I got it. So how's so-and-so doing? Like with karate practice or something. That's it. No, I didn't say anything bad in reference to blowing up at your friend, Mo. No, I didn't say anything bad, but I don't want to ruin friendships. You'll never ruin a friendship if you're just talking about something, right? Like if there is something that is unpleasant. Is it a real relationship if you can't talk about the unpleasantries and know that you'll still have each other's back? Is there enough, even if there's a ton of history, is there enough connection there that if you can't even say something you're displeased with, that they will ruin that they'll say you're ruining the friendship might not be as stable as we thought, because that should be unbreakable, right? If you're both there for each other, both really close, like all that, then saying like, hey, I didn't appreciate this, can we not do that next time? That's only offensive to someone who doesn't want to change their ways. Someone who cares about the other person's feelings and considers the other person's feelings will probably be more upset that they upset that person, rather than being like, how dare you be upset by my actions? Yeah, at least to hear what the problem is. Sending you love, Mo. Relationships take two people. It may help to remember they could be ruining something good for you. I love that. Absolutely. So let's see here. What do you wish is a good question for you guys. What do you wish someone did for you that showed you they cared? This, you don't have to mention specifically who this is, but in your life, is there somebody that you wish they could pick up on what it was that you need? That you would think that if they did this, it would show that they really cared. This could be work. This could be coworker, like it could be your boss, or it could be coworkers. It could be friends. It could be a partner. It could be absolutely anybody. But is there anyone that you wish just was doing something that would make you feel like they cared about you? Can you give me an example, if so? Take something off my plate without me having to ask. Yes, I'm assuming you're an acts of service person, right? On the love languages, which I recommend people take every 6 months, by the way. They change. Love languages change depending on the stress of the situation you're in. You know, if things aren't always weighed the same, so to speak, in our current situation. So acts of service is a big deal for sure. Nick is an acts of service person. My husband, for those newbies. I've become such a healthy confrontational person in the past. I've become such a healthy confrontational person in the past couple of years because no one is going to take better care of your immediate needs than yourself. Yes. Thank you. 2 years of therapy. Yes. Just let me eat my own special foods in the classroom because I brought the doctor's note. So, oh, keep coming. Yes, keep coming. Reaching out to me and asking if I am okay during my work busy season, but my friend who ditched me couldn't do it and was then furious when I didn't do it for her. What else? What else do you wish that you didn't have to ask for it, but it could be done for you in some capacity? It would mean like you'd really feel like this person's caring about you, that they're thoughtful. Thanking me for being present when they know I'm struggling. It's huge. Sometimes that makes it the extra bit of burnt fuel worth it. Totally. It's like, do you even know, like you're taking this for granted, you know, how easy this is for you, but do you even know what it's taking out of me to be able to do this? Yeah, totally. Tag along during monotonous chores, hang out. Oh, I love that. Hang out while I tackle house chores, acknowledge how well I handle things despite feeling like crap. Just listen to me when I say something hurts me or dismisses me. Yeah. Yeah. So here's the thing about this, as you guys are saying it. Don't assume if others aren't thinking or feeling, I mentioned this before, thinking like you are, it's because you're too much or that they're not thinking of you. They may not be. They may not be a thoughtful human. They may not be. Would we necessarily know what goes into our day to day unless we were living that shit? You know, now granted, we might say I would listen if someone told me and I would really care about it, but we could hear, but it's a different thing when you know, now if you have friends who battle chronic illness, that's a whole other story. They should be well aware. But if it doesn't mean that they aren't supportive. What they do when you do guide them, that's where it's important, because you can only plead ignorance so far, right? So it does get to a point where it is the responsibility of the other person to take what you're communicating with them and actually take that seriously and digest it, remember it. That is the responsibility of the people around you. And it's not a responsibility everyone has to take on. That's the hard part of this. How many of you guys avoid confrontation because you don't want to seem like the sick person who can't do as much? So communicate your issues before they become bubbles, right? And it starts bubbling up. Now, thoughts on this? How does this connect with you guys so far? Some of you might not communicate at all what you need. Some of you feel partners might say like, oh, I'm always set up for failure. I'm always set up to piss you off, whatever. Some of you guys could communicate what you need, but then feel like if it's not immediately like put into action, it's like another insult to ask again. But tell me how this is applying to you guys. To put it simply, lack of acknowledgement and extremely dismissive when communicating. I was at my all-time low health-wise and needed support. Absolutely. That's huge. I'm reading these. I love this. I love the stuff I'm reading in these comments here. I don't avoid as much as over push myself to feel like a normal person. I get that entirely. Yeah. Yesterday I cooked like I was catering today, and I was wiped. I haven't had an oven in God knows, and it's finally fixed. It's quiet. It's beautiful. It was great. I stopped at my mom's after my doctor's appointment the other day, and she gave me a bunch of veggies she didn't want. So I was like, okay, I'm going to cook. This is going to be amazing. And it just turned into this feeling of like, now, granted, this is about normalcy of my house, not normalcy of like my body, where back in the day, I would have definitely done this if I was having like a good day, let's say, not a flare day. But this time, it had been so long since I had cooked. I was feeling good. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep going. I got all wrapped up in it and I forgot, like, I have health conditions. I can't be stenciling an entire wall, cooking up a storm and everything like that. But that urge for normalcy overrode all of that, and it burns us right out. Because what is normal? What is normal? How many people on high blood pressure meds have never had an autoimmune illness? You know, like, what is normal? How many people I see who have been normal their whole lives and then they get hit with an illness one day, a diagnosis? How many of you guys are in that boat? You know, so I definitely get that. You know, we always want to be fine. We always want to be going, you know, so I never communicate my needs because I feel like I'm asking for too much. Ask yourself, if someone was asking me if someone was asking of me these things, would it be a problem? If the answer is no, the problem is the person in front of you. The problem is the person you're asking, not what you're asking. And it might not be a problem, like they might not suck as a human or whatever, but it's totally okay to say, I know that this is the level of giving that I naturally do, and it just doesn't match. And, you know, two people can have totally different giving levels, and that is okay. There is nothing wrong with that, but acknowledging that is powerful because neither one is wrong necessarily. I feel like I communicate till I'm blue in the face, and it's like talking to a wall, an ableist wall. Someone who is ableist willfully will never change. And for those of you who don't know, ableist is like health privilege. You know, it's like if you have no issues, let's just use like you have no issues with your legs, right? And you're going on a trip with someone who like gets terrible leg cramps. And you're like, I don't want to slow down. This is really a buzzkill right now. Where it's kind of like, all right, that's easy for you to say. Your legs are fine, right? So ableism is like a big trigger because that's what we were talking about before. You can't know it unless you know it. But, you know, if you try to explain to somebody you're sharing your space with, your energy with, whatever, a friend, partner, whatever, and they don't even want to try and understand, that's like what I was saying before. What they do once you guide them is the real thing to look at. If they still want to dismiss it after you try, then you know who you're dealing with. And part of, as much as it sucks, I'm just going to say the harsh thing. You can't give someone so many chances to be who you need them to be before they're not meant to be around for your long-term health. Not that that's a practical thing to say all the time. I'm not just trying to be flippant about it, but you can reach a breaking point where you realize this person's toxic and it doesn't make you a bad person for it. So let's see. I guess maybe telling yourself, I give myself permission to rest because I need and deserve rest. When you overpush, society tells us to push, but never to rest. And that's hard. Absolutely. You know, like we live in a very work driven society for absolute sure. But I mean, as much as I talk about the Kardashians, Kim K made that comment about, you know, I'm not seeing anybody work anymore, get up and work and blah, blah, blah. And I know she doesn't have a health issue in the way that we do, but I kind of was triggered in an ableist sense for that because I was like, how many of us would love nothing more than to have the energy and the physical capabilities to go get up and thrive at our career every day? Whatever that may be. Like, I'm not saying if you have a job you hate, nobody wants a job they hate. But of course, no one would want to not like have that zest to get up and work, you know? So if you're ever feeling guilty about needing to take a break, remind yourself that your average person maybe they shouldn't need a break. You know, if their health is fine, they're getting tons of sleep, they have no stress. Yeah. Why would they need as much of a break? But like, can we cut ourselves some slack if we got to deal with everything and health issues and trying to fake being normal, you know, and all of that? It's a different playing field. So I get so frustrated when I want to do something I used to be able to do with ease, but can't. The anger spills out the rest of my day and I act a little bitter. So that's definitely could be a whole other convo. But when you can't do something you used to be able to do, I use the analogy of shitting in a diaper, right? Like if you have a health issue that's making you shit in a diaper, this is a terrible example. I've been there. I have colitis, so I can joke. But you know, like you used to be able to shit in a diaper and you don't really do that anymore, right? I know it's nothing in the same, but in the moment it makes me like kind of be like, you know, because we change, we age beyond illness. We won't fit in the same clothes by default. Our hips change proportion. Our whole body changes proportions with hormones changing. We age, our skin sags. It happens, you know, like it's all this other stuff. So part of that is also, if you've been living with illness for a long time, your capabilities change, but that doesn't mean necessarily they lessen. They just have to accommodate. So let's see here. I read that already. Delegation and assertiveness. So, guys, why do you hate delegating? In such few words. Why do you hate delegating things to other people to do? Maybe you don't, but if you do, I love delegating because if you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. And if you want it done right, you got to show some. If you want it done right by someone who's not yourself, you just got to show them and have patience. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings because I can do it better or right. I used to think the same. I was raised by a single mother who did everything, so I should be able to as well. I'm sure she wouldn't want that for you, but because I'm a control freak and picky, I also hate talking someone through helping. It doesn't feel helpful. Delegating tasks takes some time to train or teach the person to be able to do it well. I've been working on this a ton at work. Yes, so this is going to spill into a lot of the stuff. I want you guys to remember this. Remember this concept above all else, and that is the investment theory act, whatever the hell you want to call it. I call it the investment theory. And the investment theory is that nobody likes investing. Nobody likes laying out their money or their time or their hope or whatever it is that they're investing. You like the payoff. You like the hopeful payoff, the at the end when your returns come, you know, and you're like, okay, this was worth it. I invested to get more back. But nobody's super pumped for the initial investment itself, right? Investing the time in explaining to somebody how to do it and understanding that done your way and done are two different things. And that sometimes it's important for it to be done your way. And a lot of times it's not. A lot of times it can be done differently. Now, this is all very tough pills for me to swallow because not even just saying like a control freak. I just thought it was quicker and easier. Like you guys are saying, I thought that there was less of a chance of error. There was less time I had to put into it. Again, I was pissed at the investment part of it. But until we're able to really like show someone what we need, give them the patience, the guidance to be like, no, here, and really, and this isn't just at work, this is at home too. Your husband doesn't know how to handle you when you're having like, your friggin' ovaries hurting you and you gotta run, take a crap every 5 minutes, and you also feel ugly and puffy and like, oh my God, he doesn't know how to handle me. Rather than feeling like a alien mess every so often, if you explained, maybe you need to talk together about what it is you need, what would make you feel better. But wouldn't that be nice to not have to experience on your own? So delegating, when I'm like this, I need this. Hey, can you get this for me? Hey, I was gonna do this, but I'm actually really burning out and it's not even 3 p.m. When you get home later, do you think you can do? It doesn't have to be like, all right, got it. So I need you on station 5 and I need you, like, you don't have to go into management mode. You can just say, would you mind doing this for me? Like, hey, I'm feeling super sore. Would you mind doing bath time tonight? Whatever it may be, delegation doesn't have to be a big to-do. And it's okay, like, if somebody else is like, well, I'm really tired too, like, can we do it this way? Then that's even better. The two of you are planning together. Don't feel like you're bossing someone around or you're nagging them. That responsibility you're asking, I'm guessing it's one that has to get done anyway for the greater good. So honestly, if you're going to burn out doing it, or you're going to end up freaking out later or feeling avoidant later, or disappointed or stewing in it, it's very simple. Hey, I planned on doing this, but I'm actually not feeling the hottest. So would you mind doing blank at home? At work, if you don't want to be vulnerable, you can, I don't know, because all your work situations are so different. I genuinely don't have one general blanket example for you guys, but don't, my advice with that is delegation and confrontation and all of these things. Most of it is in delivery. You could pretty much say anything if you have good delivery. And when we're leaving it for an emotional moment, we're not going to have good delivery. We can't, like, you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off. It just is what it is. It's not going to be our most ideal diplomatic time to sit down and express our feelings as humans, So being able to explain what it is you need. I noticed before when you guys were saying, what is it that someone could do for you that would make you feel really like think that they really thought about you, they cared about you, all that. Figure out how to break down what it is that you mentioned in the chat. Break that down into a specific, just one specific. Let's say I saw Beth's comment, take something off my plate without me asking, right? So randomly one night, what really, really makes me feel great and really just feels like such a thoughtful, amazing, positive reinforcement goes miles. So what really makes me feel so amazing, like loved and cared for by you, and I love it. When you see that I'm really stressed and I'm coming home late for work and you just like make an executive decision to start whatever meat I've defrosted, or if you see that I didn't defrost any meats, taking something out of the freezer, think of a specific, but package it with, I really love when you, whatever that is. See here. Let people show you who they are by asking them, not by assumption. So instead of thinking like, I'm sitting here, I'm working my ass off, I haven't even had 5 minutes to text, and he's sitting here telling me, what do you want for dinner? What are you feeling? Like, can you just freaking pick something? How many times has that conversation happened, whether alone or with them? So make your peace, make peace with deciding about somebody, well, I screwed up those 2 sentences. Holy shit. Let people show you who they are by asking. not by assumption. Let people dig their own holes, if you've heard me say that phrase before. And then lastly, before we move on to have Tara up here for the client spotlight, what is the worst thing that could happen from speaking? What's the worst thing that could happen? If you say, hey, I need you to do this for me today. Or if you say, hey, yesterday I noticed that this wasn't done, and I think that really messed up our flow for the day. So today, how can we change that? What would be the worst thing? They could say they can't do it. Okay. And you know who you're working with, or do what you're dealing with. I'm a nag, I'm exaggerating, I'm lazy, I'm mean. That's what you think that they would say? If it's not true, what does it matter? They could be calling you cotton-headed ninny muggin, right? I would have, from Elf. Was that from Elf? Or no, that was from a commercial. Was it like a gum commercial way back in the day? Like, they could be calling you anything in the world. It's not true. Okay. I'm always assuming people think I'm lazy. Let them think you're lazy. You know you're not. That's what this all boils down to. Nothing you're going to say or not say is going to make people think or not think what they want to already. But what it will do is make you bubble up and boil over later on, so that you play right into the thing you're the most self-conscious of them thinking of you. So take control. As always, this is a topic that's far broader and not easy to do in a general term. I don't know what I'm saying. I've literally had so many calls today. This topic is not a broad topic. It's a specific topic, and it's different to each of you guys. So if you're leaving the Zoom feeling like I can connect with everything, but I don't know how to make it apply, that's what we're here for. Reach out to me, to Evie, to Sophie, even in the group chats, and really just, if you need help applying it, don't hesitate to ask. That's the point of the Zoom. So, all right, let's get Tara up here. Grab your pin. Okay, hey.
Hey.
I am so pumped. I feel like it's been weeks since we've done a client spotlight, but I definitely am pumped for you to speak, because we've been working together for a while, and I'm always like, telling you how amazed I am. But I want to hear from you today. So tell us a little bit about you, about, where you started, what you were feeling coming into CCA. Let's go from there.
Wow, it feels like I started like forever ago. It's been almost 2 years at this point. Where I started, I think I found you actually because of my Instagram, where my weight loss, my fitness Instagram, I was focusing on all the wrong things. I was focusing on working out constantly, restricting my eating, not eating for my body. Yes, I was dropping weight, but I was also always hungry and just losing my mind. And I think one day I saw one of your stories and just reached out to you, and that's the rest is history.
Okay. So now when we first got you set up to do this, like we were on our first call and we're really like trying to think on what we're working on, where were you, like health-wise, physically, mentally at that time?
Health-wise, my health was pretty crappy. Like, I was going to doctors, I think almost twice a week, just trying to figure out what was going on with me. Sorry, my phone. I was going to doctors all the time. I was in constant pain, just felt crappy and had no energy. I was miserable physically. Like, yeah, I was in pain and I was miserable, but I was still pushing my body to past its limit, doing Orange Theory workouts, which in the long run gave me permanent bursitis, but that's besides the point.
Oh, it's so painful.
Yeah, and mentally, I was a crap show. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like I'm sober, so I was headed towards a relapse. I just wasn't in a good place. I was living with really toxic roommates. I think the first time we spoke, like for the intake call, I had to keep my door closed, so my roommates couldn't hear what I was saying, because they would just come in and tell me once again how I'm stupid and wasting money and stuff. So I was basically a whole mess of a person.
I feel you. I feel you there. It's funny how so many people who contribute to the problem also feel like they are the ones who know how to solve the problem, or like,
Exactly.
it's so interesting. What was the first like or biggest shock about CCA once we got started?
The biggest shock was I didn't have to restrict myself. I could basically eat what I wanted. Puppy alert. I could basically eat what I wanted with it, obviously, but a hormone friendly version. I was taking care of myself. It was more learning how to take care of myself in the right ways and not restrict myself or anything like that. That was amazing because I grew up in an environment where it was salads, grilled chicken. Why are you having that? It's too creamy. So like the fact that I could have the Alfredo, but in a way where it wouldn't hurt me hormonally, like that was amazing.
Yeah. It's kind of like we thought we should just say no. Like if you're over a certain weight or you look a certain way, like you should just be someone who just goes for the salad. And that's it. But it's like, why? Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think has changed your perspective the most?
Honestly, my phone calls and texting sessions with you, it just given me like a new perspective. I used to be terrified to even pick up a pot or a pan and cook something. And now I think I'm sending you new things like every week.
I love that. You're like, look what I got in the oven. Look what I got in the, I remember we did a kitchen. I was like, okay, we're going to FaceTime and I'm going to help you organize your kitchen. I'm going to help you. And you're like, okay. But now you're like, I love cooking. Look at what I got going on. What do you
Yeah,
think led to that?
you know what? I think packing my bags and moving to Florida, getting away from the toxic environment
Mhm.
and really learning about who I am as a person, not only working with you, but working with like an outside therapist, like finding my way, figuring out what I wanted, and being more independent on my own and having to be on my own and not have anyone else to really rely on.
Mhm.
And I just one day I was just like, I'm just gonna attempt to I can't remember what it was. It was some recipe that I had on my Pinterest for like since I started talking to you. I think it was actually the Mexican cauliflower rice, like the simplest thing on earth. And I was like, I'm just gonna try it. And it was great. Like, and from there on out, I've made hormone friendly pumpkin bread, hormone friendly peanut butter
Mhm.
cookies. Like I'm
So good. I see like a new casserole coming out of your kitchen like once a week, and I'm like, oh my God, that looks so good. Yeah, that's awesome. So a lot of, you got anyone watching who's like, oh, Michelle just knows how to throw stuff together, and that's just like a natural trait and stuff. To a degree, there is that, but I don't think that any of that's not also could not be learned. I think a lot of it is the fear that we have of like not doing it right or just feeling daunting, being disappointed, being like, what do I do if it sucks? But have you found it's pretty hard to make something not taste good, if you do the basics?
um as long as you basically follow the recipe and
You
sometimes
salt.
I add my own little mix to it, like
Mhm.
it'll come out good. Like I one day I just threw in buffalo sauce in my cheese sauce for my cauliflower mac and I was like, yum. I went from
It's so good.
burning gravy in a pan to like making pumpkin bread from scratch. So
Totally.
trust me, I everyone thought I was a lost cause. So if I can do it, you all can.
Yeah. And by the way, guys, book cooking calls. I love doing cooking calls. So if you want, just make sure you let me know before our session comes up that that's what you want to focus on. We could do that for sure. Um, Now, how do you make this fun still? I know you're talking about the food and stuff like that, but let's say on the days where things just kind of seem like they go on autopilot, it's the same crap all the time. Like, how do you still find ways to make it fun?
Um, so I make like cooking wise, like on days where I'm just kind of like or in general.
Like the days where you're like, ugh.
Um, you know, some days I give into the and then other days I try and think in my head what would make me happy right now. And normally I just go to a chaffle with that make a pizza chaffle because those are quick, easy, and not high energy needed for to cook
Mhm.
that, and it's tasty.
It's so good. I love putting the pepperoni like in the toaster, like in the iron with it, make it like sausage bread. But I have a comment here I'm seeing. How do you find the time? I just don't feel like I have the time or the energy. And that is a good point that you just made too, is like chaffles, like you could sit at the counter and make them in 5 minutes.
How do I find the time? Trust me, I work about 10-hour days. Like, and my commute is over a half hour. Sometimes I just gotta push through, and because girls gotta eat. So
Yeah.
it's all about, sometimes I'll even make like a couple of dishes on a Sunday and like pop them in the freezer, if
Mhm.
anything, and just defrost and stuff. Or I find quick little things that all I have to do is season it or add a little something to it and throw it in the oven and get my other stuff done during the day.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The easier, the better. You
Yeah.
know, I made in the classroom the bread album. A lot of those recipes were tweaked or created when like freshly after my neck surgery, where I was like, I feel like if I can make this with like a busted ass neck that's still healing, you know, then I feel like I could make this on my good days. And I didn't want it to be any harder than what could be required of me in that time on purpose, so that I knew no matter what, I had that option. Then the other thing is tweaking ordering out. If you're really exhausted, it doesn't have to take a lot. You can get something plain from a restaurant, like not seasoned, not anything. Throw your own buffalo sauce on it if you're in the mood for it, or your own blue cheese. You know, the food swaps video I just did. Kristen, I know you're new with us. Welcome. But if you look at through the Facebook page or back in the classroom for the last the last two food videos, I would say in the baby step series, those have a lot of little like quick, spoony friendly, like low energy kind of hacks and tips to make it good. But yeah, I love that. Another one is if you are feeling like if you make a dish of something, make extra. Eat half, freeze half. So this way, as you're doing that, as you keep going, you're going to run out of room even, but you'll always have, for the same effort that it's taking to make one amount of it, you'll have two.
Yeah, that's what I typically do. I always make enough to have like another meal or something like that. And honestly, like what really taught me to do that was after my car accident, when we had that phone call where I needed to like take a step back and really, because my whole arm was busted.
Yeah. It's gotta work. It's gotta work for us. It can't be the other way around, because there's no way to, life can happen. So I think that that's awesome seeing you making that work for sure after everything you've just recently dealt with too. How do you reach out if you're struggling? Like, how do you remember to or get over the fear of it? And then overall, best tip.
So when we first started, I remember I didn't reach out really at all unless it was a scheduled phone call. I had so much anxiety because I thought I was bothering you and everything like that. Because at the time, like I said, bad place mentally. My roommates treated me like shit. I always thought I was just this big bother. But as time progressed, I started to realize I was not. So I just kind of had like in the back of my head, are you stressed? Don't know what to eat? Just shoot Michelle a text. Once the new iOS update came up and you could do the little bubbles, Michelle's one of my little bubbles in my messages.
Oh, I'm so honored.
Hey, I text you all the time.
Yeah, I love it. I'm pinned. It's amazing.
Yeah, you're one of my pins, so you're right there. So I don't have to search for your message because I haven't deleted our conversations since day one, actually. But yeah, you're pinned up there, so I just press it and it's right there. I'm like I said, I've done a lot of growth with you else and everything else since I moved here, so I'm more able to reach out to people when needed. But my biggest number one tip is trust the process, guys. With Michelle, she knows what she's doing. She took me from constant pain, constant inflammation, to going back to working out, to being confident in the kitchen, to doing things I could never imagine. I don't think 2 years ago when I started CCA Beaver KGG, I would have been able to get into the legal field like I wanted to, live on my own in my apartment and have a dog and just live my life and be okay with being alone and taking care of myself and putting myself first if I didn't have the support from Michelle and the whole CCA team.
I'm gonna get choked up. I'm so proud of you, but I'm so proud. But you've also had a lot to do with that process too. The work, the process is confusing and scary and stuff, but you've, even through like crazy times, have tried to stay, if not true to the process, true to reaching out for help through it. So I'm so proud of you. That's awesome. So thank you for sharing with us and for being a part of the community and everything, and keep sharing that food because I love it. And everyone, I hope that this was helpful. I hope that, you know, over the next few weeks, the next one we're going to be working on, I'll be posting up before, you know, the actual time. I'll post it midweek this week because I want to encourage some conversation before next week's lesson. But we're going to be doing the calm method. So 4 weeks of stress management. If you have any questions or you need anything, you know, any support, don't hesitate. Reach out to me, to Evie, to Sophie, and let's get it. So enjoy your week. Bye, guys.